The last video for this section covers what are called related conditionals. These are conditionals that we can make out of an original conditional statement. So if I say my original conditional statement is if P, then Q. There are three different related conditionals to that, each with their own truth value. So the converse, it's still going, and by the way, all of these end up being new conditional statements. All that's happening is I'm doing something to the original hypothesis and conclusion. So for a converse, all I'm doing is switching the hypothesis and conclusion. So if I started with if P, then Q, my converse would be if Q, then P. If you're being asked for truth values, the truth value of the converse has no relation to the original truth value of the original conditional. So if my first original conditional was true, that doesn't mean the converse is true. It doesn't mean it's false. I have to treat the converse as its own unique statement and figure out its truth value independent of the original truth value. For the inverse, I'm not going to switch the conclusions and hypothesis places. I'm going to negate them. So instead of saying if P, then Q, it would be if not P, then not Q. And this is the one that usually causes the most trouble. The truth value for the inverse also has absolutely nothing to do with the truth value of the original statement. I have to figure out the truth value of the inverse on its own without even thinking about the original truth value of the original conditional statement. Well, then the converse is actually a combination of, or the contrapositive, which is kind of a fun word to say, is a combination of converse and inverse. I'm going to switch and negate the hypothesis and conclusion. So this would be if not Q, then not P. And now here's where I throw you. Converse, truth value had nothing to do with the original statement. Inverse, truth value has nothing to do with the original statement. Contrapositive always matches the truth value of the original statement. This is the only one that happens with. So if my original statement is true, the contrapositive is automatically true. If the original statement is false, the contrapositive is automatically false. So, for example, if I say, if an animal is a lion, then it is a cat that can roar, which is a true statement. For the converse, I would switch the hypothesis and conclusion. So my converse would be, if it is a cat that can roar, then an animal is a lion. That would actually end up, while the original conditional was true, if a cat can roar, then it is a lion, is actually a false statement. And my counterexample would be a tiger. For the inverse, from my original statement, I negate the hypothesis and I negate the conclusion. So my inverse would be, if an animal is not a lion, then it is not a cat that can roar. And again, has nothing to do with the original statement being true. This is also going to be a false statement because, as a counterexample, I'm going to use a tiger again, because that is an animal that is not a lion, but it is a cat that cannot roar. So that is an issue there. But notice, truth value had nothing to do with the truth value of the original statement. But then when I get to the contrapositive, I negate and switch the hypothesis and conclusion. And even before I say it, I already know the truth value has to match the conditional, so this will be a true statement. But it would be, if it is a cat that cannot roar, then an animal is not a lion. And that is true, as we already discussed.